No, you're right. Exceptions don't make no sense to the bigger society. But I'm always, not always, but I'm mostly exception to the rule. So when I say things, I'm thinking about
Speaking to the mic.
Sorry, when I say things, I'm thinking things how I think and how I react. But I also understand that society doesn't think like me.
Most girls will quote exceptions, not the rule, and it's just to alleviate themselves of the responsibility of having to be factual in the moment.
Do you think so?
100%. It happens all
Do you
the time.
think 'cause
The
the rules...
accountability is the one key word. When you throw that word around, like how many women really claim that and can say I'm truly accountable for my actions? We all here just said when she asked the question about being of understanding the byproducts of certain decisions we make, and we all know that we make impulsive decisions, yet you still make the wrong decision. So accountability will tell you that, okay, to better myself and make better decisions, I'm gonna take accountability for my bad decisions and then better myself. But you all willingly said like, oh no, well, I still make impulsive decisions.
No, but that doesn't mean that we don't learn from previous things that we've done. In the same way that you learnt from like your aggressive behaviour when you were younger, that doesn't mean that we don't learn from that and are conscious of our behaviour if that happens again.
So from what I've seen, I don't think most girls do. I think they go to toxic relationship after toxic relationship after toxic relationship. Then at 28, 29, when they're running out of time, their biological clock is ticking, they run to the nice guy.
But in terms of relationships, that's because they haven't learned. They haven't understood what was wrong with the relationship before.
So you haven't learned.
Their own behaviour.
But how many times do you have to learn?
No, but they haven't learned. They don't know what
like
was
20
wrong.
times,
they
30
don't know
times,
what was wrong before.
40 times, 50 times.
I don't think you could put a cap on how many times because people learn. No, only because for me, I've been in certain situations I would never go back to. So I learned very quick, very young. Probably why I'm single now. Because if I was going with the Joneses and going with the flow, I would probably be with a man now. But I learned very young, very quickly that I have to, that it's a lot of. It wasn't right for me. I wasn't ready for a relationship when I was young. Therefore, I took myself out of that stuff and worked on myself. But if I was just to go free and in, I probably would be with someone else. I think it takes a lot. It takes a strong person to take a step back.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. Some girls do learn and make better decisions. But the problem is we're just thinking about us. Because why does a man have to deal with that?
But in the same time,
why does he have to deal with a girl that can't learn young? Like why wouldn't he just marry a 22-year-old? Because
she's young, and that's what's crazy about that though. You're saying that, but then men also prefer young women that haven't learned that.
That they can mold.
It's like when that's how. So
exactly.
So why don't men,
young women?
Yeah, that they can mold and they haven't learned. They haven't learned.
They haven't been through these.
They haven't learned.
No, women haven't been through these problems that create more problems for me in the future. So whether or not you've learned, okay, I can help to teach you the right way to do things. I don't want to have to teach you the right way after bare men have ran through you, and then it becomes more of a hassle for me to try and develop this relationship because you have bare problems.
Do you know?
I hear that, to be fair.
I understand you. Okay, because there's two different kind of females. There's females that had a lot of sex with a lot of men and they've had their body count is very high. There's females that have not had sex with a lot of men and their body count is low. I have friends in both sections. I know people in both sections. And in my experience, even though you're saying I don't want to deal with a woman that's been ran through whatever and all those kind of things, I have met women that they've done the right thing. They've got less partners. They're being submissive. They're being all these things. But their man is still going and having to go through things that he would have gone through with a girl who's been ran through because it's how they're being treated by people, which reflects on how you have to come and deal with that mess.
So you're basically saying that the girl with less body still has trauma? Is that your point?
Yes, yeah, basically.
But we're talking about like a balance of probabilities. So if a girl's been with 50 dudes versus 5 dudes, who's more likely going to have more trauma? Yeah. Just the balance of probabilities.
Oh, see, I've got
you know what? And you know, I mean, I've always said like Rollo Tomasi has a quote where it's like, it's not the number, it's the number of like guys that she saw as alpha. So it's like the number of men that she's comparing you to, but the bigger the number is, the more it's just a balance of probabilities.
But when you were talking earlier about dating and sex, like if sex is just a physical act, you can sleep with a guy that you're not dating and that whether that be a one-night stand or just a fling, like, why does that necessarily need to affect you in that way that it puts you through trauma? It doesn't.
You can do that. Yeah. Like, that's totally fine, but men don't want to deal with that. That's like.
I mean, they don't deal with it anyway.
Plus-
I mean, they don't deal with it. It's other people can manage, which are counselling.
Plus, you have to remember, like, again, the characteristics of a woman that frees it up to that capacity is going to have other implications in that relationship. And again, why would you as a man want to take that risk,
Like
knowing
what?
that?
What kind of implications are we talking about here?
So if we're talking about like promiscuity and the effect it can have on a relationship, if that man isn't ticking all the biological boxes, whereas he probably would have been before if the woman was less promiscuous, the likelihood is that she's more likely to stay. We quoted the statistic before that 70 to 80% of women leave their men. It's not men leaving, it's women leaving. So if men are out here having more sex and women are out here having more sex, but as a consequence of us both having more sex, you're less likely to stay with me, then what you're doing is causing a problem to successful relationships. So you're actively breaking up nuclear homes because you can't maintain your discipline.
But then women aren't leaving because of sex, leaving because of financial reasons that we said. So it's not about, I think sex is insignificant.
Did you know one of the number one indicators of divorce is the woman out earning the man?
I can see that, yeah.
But it goes back to because the woman, one of the reasons is because the woman is around all these men that she wants.
But then if we're talking about is it sex or is it money? Because if she's leaving because he's not earning enough, that's different than this.
No, that's
sex.
selfish. But it's about being a selfish woman. That is selfish. If you're leaving and breaking up a home because he's not earning enough money, that's selfish.
And that's
It's okay to want that, but if you sign the papers, if you got married to him, and now you think you're above him because you make more.
And remember, we're talking about characteristics here. So
Yeah.
with the characteristics of a woman that wants to free up for everybody, when she is around men that she wants, she's going to act on those feelings. Whereas a woman who's more disciplined is able to say no to things because she's had less. There's more likelihood of a sexual relationship.
And they say that 20% of men are raising a kid that's not theirs. That's why they don't want a promiscuous woman. They're afraid they're going to pass the resources onto the wrong, onto a kid that's not theirs.
Well, unknowing or knowing?
On not knowing.
So how do they get the statistic? I don't know. It's
DNA tests.
Yeah, so when they come to find out.
When they find out, I just want to know how that was possible.
We literally spoke to a lady yesterday that said that the kid was 11 years old before he found out. The woman just came clean because her conscience couldn't take it no more.
Mad. 11 years.
This is what men have to go through.
Do you think
Wild.
Do you think the women stay or do you think they settle? Because it's like if they've been exposed to A, B, and C men, one toxic, one really nice, they know how then to spot a really nice guy and a toxic one. Whereas like if they've had maybe one boyfriend and that's the only toxic one they've had, that's the only familiarity they've had with a partner. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes having, say, a promiscuous girl, they have that knowledge now
You see what it
to
is?
go ahead like men do. Because you're saying how men can spread their seed, so they know what they want.
Logically, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then we have the data to prove that doesn't work. So what you're saying would make sense in an ideal world, but ideally that doesn't actually happen.
I mean, as many of you know, I was just banned on TikTok, and we are demonetized on a daily basis on this platform. If you want to help, please consider sending a super thanks below. Every donation helps, and it helps make what we do possible.